Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kathy, owner and creator at Sycamore and Cotton. If you like vintage, upcycled, handcrafted, and repurposed home decor, and you enjoy a good thrift haul or DIY project, then you're in the right place, because those are the kinds of things that I'll be sharing here, and I would love for you to leave a comment telling me which of these things you enjoy most. So be sure to click subscribe to receive notifications when a new video is uploaded. Now let's get started with today's project. For today's video, I'm showing how I made this spring floral centerpiece using things I already had around the house. For my centerpiece, I'm using this dough bowl, but you can use any kind of platter or plate or basket or tray, anything that you have on hand. And this bunny that I'm using was actually purchased from Big Lots probably 25 years ago at least. And I had put it away for quite a while and decided to bring it back out a couple of years ago. At first I wanted to paint it after I brought it back out to make it more spring looking, but then I realized it's beautiful in its own way. So it looks really great with this centerpiece. So it'll definitely be keeping its color. So I just start by going through the greenery that I have. I got several kinds of greenery as part of the supplies that I'll need. And these were all just things that I had around the house already, so I didn't purchase anything special for this. Now you notice that I sat the rabbit down on a wood slice. I did that just to elevate it a little bit so that it doesn't look like it is drowning in all of the greenery or hidden because of all the greenery. And I do like that design around the edges of it, so if any of the parts of that are showing up, then that makes me happy. I am not using styrofoam because this is a very special dough bowl to me. It is not an antique or anything like that, but it is very special because it had belonged to my late sister. So I want to keep it as it is, and gluing a piece of styrofoam in would have compromised that. And I'm able to put it all together without the styrofoam, so that works for me. But feel free to use styrofoam if you like, but make sure that if you're using glue anywhere, make sure that it's something that's not going to damage the piece that you're using if it's something that you want to reuse in other ways. So as you can see, I've started with my florals or my greenery, and I added 2 longer stems in the front. Well, actually, back up, I started with adding the Spanish moss around the bunny, and then I started adding the greenery. And that Spanish moss is just there for a filler. It's not really part of the finished design so much, but it's there as a filler. It also helps to hold the greenery in place since I'm not using styrofoam. And I'm just working around with my fillers. Now, I like fillers or greenery of all different kinds of shapes, sizes, and colors. I started out with the longer piece, but I like to have all different kinds of layers. And that's the important thing to remember as you're putting together your floral, either one like this or any other kind that you may be working on. And I'm no expert at all when it comes to this. I just play around until I find something that I like, or I find the look that I'm going for. So it's important to have layers, it's important to have texture, it's important to have color. So for these I have, as you see here, that lamb's ear. I have some greenery that has florals, little florals on the tips, tiny little ones to add some visual interest in that way. They're different colors, different sizes, different textures of florals. So keep that in mind when you're selecting what you'll use for your centerpiece. So here I'm just working around with all the different greenery that I brought up and just trying to find the right spot for everything. Well, that piece is a little too large, and I'm sorry that there's not a full view on this screen of everything, but so since it's too large, I'm going to take my wire cutters and cut those pieces into single pieces instead of one big bunch. And those are not the best wire cutters to be using, but it's the ones that I brought upstairs with me from my workshop. So it makes a big difference by cutting down each of those stems from that greenery. And this is one of my favorite pieces of greenery. I'm not sure what it is, but it reminds me of dandelion greens. So I like it a lot, especially for a floral arrangement that's going to be sitting out during the spring. Now, right now, you're probably thinking, well, that's not looking like too much, but I promise you, it all does come together. I just keep adding the greenery here and there, moving it around when I don't like the first place that I place it, and just going for the right look. You know, it's really a simple project. It takes a little bit of time just finding the right place for your greenery and the right greenery for the place that you're adding it in. There I'm adding a bit of boxwood, which comes really inexpensively from Walmart. It's been a while since I've bought any, but I think I got a bundle of it for like 97 cents or $1 or something very inexpensive. And it's a really nice faux greenery. Now here I've gotten into my bag of Spanish moss that I thrifted recently and got it home and realized that it was all made into little bird nests, or it looked like that's what someone had tried to do, is to make a bunch of little bird nests. So I bring this one out to place in with the greenery, and adding now a little bit of moss. I love the green moss mixed in with the Spanish moss because, no bird nest is made out of just one element. So putting that little bit of green moss in with the Spanish moss just gives it a little bit more color, more interest, and makes it more real-like. Here I'm adding a couple of little bird's eggs, which I painted myself, and just painted a lot of them to have for decorative purposes throughout the home and also to sell in my shop. I'm sorry about the pause in activity here in this part of the clip. I think I had been looking for something that I needed, and it took me a minute or two to find. So my apologies for that. Now I'm placing the green moss just in little places throughout the greenery where it needs a little something else. Again, the texture, the color, the shape, it all adds visual interest to the centerpiece. It fills in spots where perhaps another kind of greenery would be too much or too unrealistic looking. So I'm just tucking it in around the centerpiece, sometimes larger pieces, sometimes just a few twigs of it. I like seeing it hanging out from the other greenery. I just think it really makes a big difference. And as you can see, it helps a lot in bringing this centerpiece together. I thrifted the bag of green moss from, I think, a Goodwill, and I paid $3 for it, which is a good bargain because Spanish moss or green moss can be pretty costly if you're paying full retail price for it. I decided that I didn't like that specific little nest because it seemed like it was just a little bit too big. So I take another piece out that is a little smaller and I reshape it or give it a little bit more shape from where it's been tossed around in that bag so much. So I shape it up, making it more like a realistic bird's nest. Add that green moss back in, and then add the little eggs back in, and then place it where the other piece had been sitting, but situate it a little bit closer to the rabbit, which I like better. And I'm still just working in some of the green moss. Look at all the colors, look at all the textures. I just love it. Now, I'm trying to cut that little plastic stem off because it looks like maybe a flower should have been attached to the end and it's not really natural looking to me. So I'm trying to cut it off, and those wire cutters are just not doing the trick. Yeah, a pair of scissors would have done a lot better, but I didn't have scissors with me, so I keep working until I finally, there we go, get it off of there. And it may not have made that much of a difference if I'd left it, but I just didn't want it on there. Trying to position things so that that pretty design around the little bunny does show up in places. A little bit more lamb's ear, which is one of my favorite pieces of greenery. And I have it growing in my yard as well. I've heard that you can dry it. I have not tried that. I buy a lot of it, so I should. And let me know if you grow lamb's ear in your yard or in your garden, because what I found is it's very invasive. But it's a very hardy plant, so that's one of the things that I like about it. I'm still just tucking things in here and there, trying to get it just right. I don't know if you can hear the wind chimes outside or the wind outside. I've got the garage door open. I'm actually in the room adjacent to the garage, and both doors are open. So the door coming into this room, the garage door itself is open, and it's getting pretty windy out there. We live in southeastern Kentucky, and the weather has just been beautiful the last couple of days. And I think yesterday we might have reached 71 or 69, something like that. But tonight, apparently, it's supposed to drop down into the 20s. So, yeah, it can be shorts weather one day and bundle up with your mittens the next day. But even though it may drop that low tonight, it'll probably be up in the 50s again tomorrow, maybe even back up into the 60s. Who knows? You saw that I had that little orb that I was trying out, and at that point, I did not like it, but I did end up adding it at the end when I had finally gotten everything pulled together the way that I wanted it. And this is some of my most favorite greenery or floral, whatever you want to call it, that I'm using in this. And I think that these pieces really what bring this together. And I actually got these out of my yard, so they're very organic. They're little dried buds that came off of our crepe myrtle tree, and I just think they go so well because the color of them seem to match the rabbit pretty well. And they just add this extra visual interest to this entire centerpiece. So I think I collected about 5 different pieces from our yard or from our tree. And I'm just taking pieces off of each little branch or each little twig and just putting it all around the centerpiece. And then I'll pretty much be finished. This is not something that I'll be adding a bow to or anything because I like the natural look here that I have going on. And I do apologize about the frame of this video. It does show more in my original video, but when I add it to this video editor, it is a smaller frame. So I'm not sure how that's going to look when I actually upload this to YouTube, but I do hope that it gives more of a depiction of how I have used all these pieces to create this centerpiece, which I am really happy with. Now, if your centerpiece is using a more spring-colored rabbit or any other little whatnot that is spring-like, you can use florals that match your main object most. For me, I wanted everything to look more natural, but if you were using something that was very springy looking itself, then maybe you would want to have more florals in your arrangement. And here it is. There it is. I am really happy. I'm just moving some things away from the centerpiece so that you can see better how it is on its own. And I just love how it turned out. There is one thing to do though, and that's to check the back side because it's going to be visible from all sides. And I wanted to make sure that the back side doesn't have stems sticking out and doesn't look as pleasing to the eye as the rest of it. And as you can see, some of the stems off of that greenery were showing. So just a few little things are going to fix that and make it more pleasant to the eye from all sides. And you can tell just from how much I'm doing when I add things or move things around how the greenery really does stay in place well enough for me to not have to glue anything or use any styrofoam. And okay, there we go. So what do you think? Do you think you'll be trying to make your own centerpiece? And if you do, Do you want it to have more of the natural look like this, or do you want it to be something more colorful and springy? I like this for me and my home because it is something that I feel I can leave out pretty much year round. Even at Christmas, to be honest, I could just maybe add a little bit of holly to it. Now the eggs, maybe not, but the rest of it I feel like is something that can be left out year round and not just for the spring or Easter holiday. If you've enjoyed this video, then I hope that you'll consider hitting like and subscribe. Those things, as well as comments that you leave on the videos, are so helpful for YouTubers to build their channel. And it's a really simple way to help a small business like myself. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'm grateful for each of you, and I look forward to seeing you at my next video. See you soon.